Steve Jewin, MMA Mania.
All right, Paul, you are now on with Steve Jewin of MMA Mania. Go ahead, Steve.
Paul Daley, how are you doing today, sir?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate.
It's always good to hear from you. It's always good to talk to you, and you've got a good fight coming up here in a week. You're going to be fighting the barbaric Derek Anderson. How are you feeling about that fight?
I'm excited, he's a young, hungry fighter. He's only lost twice. A massive opportunity for him, so I'm expecting a tough fight, which is always good.
Well, you mentioned he's young and hungry. Do you think he's also a little underrated? Do you think people might be sleeping on him? I know you're not.
Well, I hear he's been doing well at 155. He looks like a competent, tough fighter. He's trained on the feet. He's got submissions. Seems to be in good condition. So, I think they're sleeping on him. And I never sleep on a fighter. Everybody was the no-name fighter at one point. Everybody was a contender. So, he's just another fighter for me.
Do you think him coming up to welterweight will make him a little slower, or do you think that with his size frame he'll be able to hang with you at 170?
He's a big guy at 155, but he's been competing for his career at a lighter weight, and I think he'll be tough, he'll be durable, but I think when you're a career 170 pounder, and I'm not the biggest 170 pounder, but I've been in there and defeated some big, strong guys, and I've been doing it for 13 years at this weight. I think that puts me at a massive advantage. And he's good all-round game. I think the fact that he's been competing 155 is going to be a big factor for him.
Now, I actually talked to Derek earlier this week. Sometimes I get to talk to you first, sometimes I get to talk to your opponent first. This time it was him. And the curious thing was, he didn't seem to be angling for a welterweight title shot. He said a victory over you could put him back in the mix at lightweight for a title shot. And I'm wondering, if he beats you, shouldn't he be going for that welterweight title?
Yeah, I think so. But, there's maybe the fact that he's saying that is a little bit negative on his part. Like you say, if he was to beat me, he should be angling for 70 pound title shot. So maybe his confidence there to really have a shot at a run at 170 pounds isn't really there, which, although he's saying it's going to put him in a position at 155, tells me there's some seeds of doubt in his head about actually competing at 170. So, and I think rightly so, like I just said, he's a 155 pound fighter. I'm a career 170 pound fighter, and I think he's just in it to put on a big performance and sort of elevate his name, which may be enough to put him in a position to challenge for a title at 155. But yeah, it's a little strange that he would go back down to lightweight.
And speaking of title challenges, you were knocking on the door with 5 straight wins before the Douglas Lima fight, and I know you're not the kind of person who's going to dwell on a loss, but do you have any regrets looking back at that fight?
No regrets. Well, yeah, I just, I sort of, we had a game plan to put him on his back foot so he couldn't utilize his devastating kicks, and we sort of rushed that game plan, and we went too quickly into the fight, and he caught me early on, and I was just playing catch up from there. But I take away a hell of a lot of positives from that fight, and it's very hard. You watch the fight once, you watch it live, you're like, okay, this happened, and you watch it again, and you watch it again, and obviously not everybody does that. Maybe just a loser, and I've taken away a lot of positives from that fight, and people, rightly so, it was a comfortable win for Lima. People said it was a comfortable win for Lima, but knowing myself and knowing how I felt in there and knowing how destructive the initial mistake was, but still how positively I came back despite a hiccup in the second round where it caught me again. We take a lot away from the fight in a positive light, and he's a former champion, and You know, he's not just another fighter. He's one of the best fighters in the world, and one of the top 5 fighters in Bellator. So we take away a lot from that fight, and we're just moving forward.
Well, I took a lot positive away from it too. You went the full distance with him, so even if you got caught early on, it didn't finish you. And I liked what you had to say after the fight as well, that you acknowledged there had been some bad blood and a little disrespect between the two of you, but that you admired his heart as a fighter and said, hey, we can be friends now. It's all good.
Yeah, most definitely. Like I said as well, there was a shoot that we did in Florida, I think it was, and after we'd all done shooting over the whole roster, I think it was just me, Douglas, and another one of the guys from the media team. We went back to downtown Universal, and we was there together, hanging out the whole night, doing shots and shit. So, we had that kind of bond, albeit for just 24 hours, but we were in a social environment, and we was never really close friends, but like I said, we had that 24 hours and we got along. So yeah, I had to find something to sell the fight because I knew the guy was a cool character from the time we'd spent together. So I just wanted to make the fans aware and make him aware, like, I'm not being a dick, I know you're cool, I'm cool with you, but, we're here to do a job. And one of those jobs is making sure that people watch our fight.
A lot of people did. I remember it did a good number, and it was on tape delay too, so that really says something that people still tuned in, even though they could have found out the results early.
Yeah, he did some great numbers, and pretty happy with that. I'm sure Lima is too.
Now, do you think Derek Anderson will have a similar respect for you after the fight next week? Do you think he'll want to do a round of shots with you after it's over?
Probably not, but not in a negative way, but, he's probably going to be a little bit worse for wear, after this fight. And I haven't heard nothing bad from him so far, just all the usual stuff that he's got to say. He's confident in beating me, and he's going to beat me, and he can beat me in many different ways, and, or whatever he's been saying. But I expect him to say, I'm going to be there to fight and finish him. I'm going to be, I've trained well for him. I've not taken anything lightly. I've trained hard. I've trained focused. And, I'm going to go in there and take care of business. But he has to, there's two ways people react when they're fighting me. They either show some bravado and say, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, or they take a more humbled approach. I think Derek's took like a slightly more humbled approach, and I respect that. But come the 4th of November, once we're in there and that bell goes, if there is no respect, I'm going to be going out there to finish him, and in devastating fashion.
I feel like you're hitting the nail on the head with your assessment of him, because I asked if he had anything he wanted to say, get into the verbal sparring game, and he didn't really throw any jabs your way, at least verbally, so he must be saving them all for the cage.
Yeah, and I respect that. Like I say, what can he say, I've been in the sport for a long time. I've achieved a lot, despite the titles have avoided me. I've been in there with all the top names and put on some fantastic fights. So he can only say what everybody else is going to say, which is, I'm going to beat him, because you're not going to enter into a fight saying that you're going to lose. So he has to be respectful in that sense. And, once it's fight time, even at the weigh-ins, I go for it at the weigh-ins. And once that reality hits, then, it's game on.
Right on. Now, there's a couple of cards coming up nearer to you in the future. There's a card in Tel Aviv, a card in Dublin, but you're traveling to Uncasville for this fight. So was there any thought of trying to get on either of those cards?
I wouldn't mind a fight on the Dublin card if I could get an interesting opponent, but my focus right now is on Derek Anderson. But I was a bit shocked that they gave me this fight in November, knowing that they were coming to Dublin, because I fought 3 times in Dublin, twice in Dublin and once in Cork, and I have a strong Irish following, believe it or not. I was main event on all those shows, and they did well for small arena shows, 3,000, 5,000 people, and yeah, I was a bit surprised that there was coming over to Dublin with King Mo, and the fact that I fought for Bama 3 or 4 times, gone undefeated there, and it's a co-promotion. But you know, I'm fighting November 4th. I get out of it unscathed with the victory, and I'm still on a high. And they offer me the fight at the right time before I start eating incorrectly, and I take the fight just before the pizzas start kicking in.
That sounds like a plan to me, and surely they'd want your drawing power in Dublin. Like you said, you've main evented Bama there. What do you think of the fact that it's co-promoted with Bama? What does that say for Bellator and for Bama?
Well, it makes a lot of sense to me. I've always been, a big fan of Bama. Most times if I'm fighting in Europe and fighting in the UK, it's been for Bama. I had a multi-fight contract for them. And I'm a big fan of the production coming from the era of Pride and the big entrances, and having fought for Strikeforce, and now with what Scott's doing with Bellator, and I like the whole production thing. And Bama's always been one of the UK or European shows that also value their production and their marketing, and as well as putting on good fights. And I think that the two promotions come together makes sense. That's a hell of a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, it does too. I really look forward to seeing what they do together. But let me get back to Derek Anderson before we run out of time. What do you think is the ideal way to fight him? What do you see as the best strategy for Derek?
I've just got to fight. I've got to be patient. A lot of the time, I can get overzealous with when I think that the opportunities are there for the taking. But I think if I fight a relaxed fight like I fought Andy Urich and just don't pressure the knockout too much, it's going to come. I just don't think there's nothing in the way. I just don't think there's nothing he can offer me that I haven't seen. Yeah, he's hungry. I've fought hungry fighters before. Yeah, he's 6'1". I've fought tall fighters before. He's a bit of an all-rounder, a solid ground game. I've seen it all in my career, and I'm still hungry. People call me a veteran in the sport, but I'm still hungry because I've been so close, and I will get there. So I just need to be patient, enjoy it, enjoy the environment, enjoy the arena, and just fight naturally, freely. And doing that, then it's going to go just right.
Well, no matter how tall they are, I know one thing about you from watching you over these many years is they all fall down when you land on that chin.
There we go. And that is what shall happen, but I ain't looking for it. But I'm saying that it's more than likely going to be a knockout victory.
Well, that should be a lot of fun for the fans in Uncasville and for me as well. But before I let you go, Paul, any closing plugs? I always like to give you that chance to shout out anything you want.
Yeah. Massive thanks to everyone that's helped me in the camp. Maybe the two main people being Radosław Horbyk, who flew over from Poland, Beijing Olympic freestyle wrestling veteran. He gave me 2 weeks of hell with his wrestling, his drilling, and his sparring. And Andre Winner, UFC veteran, has been my main sparring partner for this fight. Again, he has no fights coming up, but he came over to train with me, spar with me twice a week. So massive thanks to Andre Winner and Radosław Horbyk.
So everybody be sure to tune in to see the results of that training going through hell to bring a little hell to the barbaric Derek Anderson at the Mohegan Sun Arena on November 4th at Bellator 163. Paul, thank you again.
Nice one. Thanks very much.